Octagonal vintage Zenith Defy. This watch is a true standout from the golden era of Swiss watchmaking, especially the late 60s and early 70s. It was so iconic that Zenith recently released a re-edition called the Defy Revival, but it comes with a pretty hefty price tag. So I decided to take a different route. I picked up a vintage original one from my Instagram friend Chrono Eves. Huge thanks to him. It cost me just 600 euros. And yes, it's seen better days. But that's exactly why I got it for such a good price. And now I am on a mission to do the real revival of Zenith Defy. Alright, let's get into it. We are starting off as always with the caseback removal. And it was surprisingly easy. Looks like someone already been in here recently. Now let's take a look at the movement. See those black particles scattered around? That's old oil from the barrel. The jewels and bearings are bone dry too. So yeah, this movement is begging for a full service. But that's story for the next video. Today we are focusing on restoring the case. Next up, removing the crown. And this one's being a bit tricky. There is some kind of pinion here, probably tied to the date mechanism. But we will check what is it for later. It's mounted on something that looks like a circlip or Segar spring, which makes removal, let's say, character building, but with a bit of patience and mild frustration. It comes off. Now we carefully lift out the movement and set it aside. Time to tackle the bezel. Removing it without damage is tricky, but luckily I've got a secret weapon. The old Bergeron number 3400. It's designed for polygon-shaped bezels or casebacks, and honestly, it's a gem. Takes a bit of fiddling to match the shape, but once it's dialed in, it's rock solid. I've used it on some stubborn casebacks and bezels. It's never let me down. Next we remove the crystal. It's really stuck. Probably been sitting there since disco was still a thing. The gasket? It's no longer rubber. It's evolved into brittle plastic. Definitely needs replacing. The caseback gasket isn't too bad. Looks like someone swapped it not long ago. Now onto the crown tube. This one is a headache. There is a slight angle between the case and the tube, which makes pushing it out cleanly impossible. I even designed and 3D printed a special angled part for my tool. And yeah, it didn't help. So, plan B. Drill it out. I checked online, replacements are available, so we are safe to destroy the old one. Sweet relief. With that done, I cleared the bench and headed to my friend's workshop to weld the dents on the case and bezel. I didn't weld every tiny imperfection. Why? Because welding penetrates deep into the original metal. Let me show you what I mean. Imagine this is the edge of the case. Big dent, small dent. When we weld, the material fuses with the original metal. But right at the edge of the weld, there is often something which I call weld scratch. And that scratch has depth. So to make the case look new, we would have to sand it down. But weld scratch have similar depth as dent we are welded. So for what we was welding it. Now that we are clear, let's clean the case parts. First into the ultrasonic cleaner. This removes debris, dust, oils, glues and whatever else time left behind. Then a rinse in clean water and a towel dry. Now we polish. I always start with the back of the case. Why? Because it helps preserve the flatness of the other edges I will polish later. If I did it last, I would risk rounding off those crisp lines. I'm not chasing perfection here. The back isn't visible during wear and polishing it flawlessly would take hours for minimal payoff. I just want it to shine. Now onto the important edges, starting with the one closest to the bezel. I mount the case onto my lapping device and begin the tricky part, finding the perfect angle between the lapping disc and the case. It's not easy. The bezel thread gets in the way and prevents sanding this edge across entire lapping disc, so it will be hard operation. Once it's aligned, I start lapping with coarse grit paper. This shapes the edge and gives it that crisp flatness. It's the most time-consuming step, but also crucial for this process. Then I switch to medium grit. This doesn't shaping, just replacing deep scratches with lighter ones. Subtle but necessary to get super finish. Then comes fine grit. Same idea. Grind until the previous scratches disappear. After this, the edge is almost polished. Now for the final polish. I use a conventional polisher here. Why? Because polishing on the edge of a lapping disc is risky. I can easily damage the case. Ideally, I would use a smaller lapping disc on a different machine, but I haven't built it yet. Maybe one day. Still, the result is great. Not perfectly flat, but that's okay. After the next steps, it will be even better. That's exactly why I start with this edge. With that done, I move on to the side edges of the case. I adjust the angle between the tilt table and the lapping disc, mount the coarse grit paper and begin removing scratches and dents. The goal is to make these edges perfectly flat and restoring the shape someone carefully designed over 60 years ago. Now you might be wondering, why am I using the tilt table instead of the lapping device? Simple thing, efficiency. With the tilt table I can do all 8 edges in a single setup. If I used the lapping device, I would have to repeat the process 8 separate times. That's a full day of grinding. And I like watches, but I also like sleep. Next, I move on to the finer grits. Just like before, I'm replacing deep scratches with shallower ones. It's a slow, satisfying refinement. Each stage brings the surface closer to that flawless finish. As I grind the case on different diameters of the lapping disc, you will notice the direction of the scratches changes. That's actually super helpful. It lets me finish one grid stage on one disc diameter, so the scratches are positioned in one direction. Then switch to a finer grid on a different diameter and the scratches are on different position. That way I can clearly see whether the deeper scratches from the previous grid have disappeared. It's like a breadcrumb trail for polishers. And I forget to say, the direction of the scratches really matters. If I grind the case in the same position, I will create a polishing imperfection known as comet's tail. It looks like a tiny dot with a trailing streak, just like a comet. Cool in space, not so cool on a watch. That's why I change the grinding direction non-stop. It helps track progress and prevents any one scratch pattern from dominating. This technique is key to achieving a truly pristine professional finish. On the finest grid, the edges already look almost like a mirror, but there are still tiny scratches left, and those need to go. Next, I mount the polishing cloth, spray it with 6 micron diamond particles and begin polishing. This time I am polishing directly on the lapping disc. That's the secret to getting the flattest, most precise edges. And just look at the effect. It's glorious. Are you seeing this? It's like the case is waking up after a long nap. But we are not done yet. I want perfection. So I mount a fresh polishing cloth, spray it with 1 micron diamond particles and go in for the final polish. Oh, and between each step I clean the case thoroughly. That way no bigger current or diamond particles from earlier stages sneak in and mess things up. After polishing with the 1 micron compound, the result is something truly incredible. Don't you think? Isn't it satisfying to see that transformation? Now I'm moving on to the satin finished edges. I adjust the angle on the tilt table, mount coarse grid paper, and begin grinding. At this stage, it's not about the final look. It's about removing weld marks, dents, and scratches. I need a clear view of the corner edges before I start to shape it. You will notice the satin finish is in the wrong direction for now, but that's intentional. The final finish comes later. Next, I mount the case onto my lapping device and I carefully adjust the angles between the case and the disc. This part takes time. The corner edges are small and alignment must be perfect. These edges define the entire look of the case. Next, mounting the coarse grid paper and starting lapping it. This is the most crucial and stressful moment of the process. Any mistake here could erase all the work I've done so far. A single distraction and poof, those crisp proportions are gone. It's a long, tiring stage, but the reward? Worth every second. Once I'm confident the edges match the original dimensions, I move on to the finer grid papers. But even now I stay laser focused. On finer grids, the margin for error is also thin. One slip and it's all gone. So I take it slow, one step at a time. No shortcuts here. On the finest grid, the edges are already mirror-like, but they still need that final polish. So I mount the polishing cloth, spray it with 6 micron diamond particles and begin polishing. At this stage I can finally relax a bit. Mistakes here aren't catastrophic, and they are easy to fix. And the result? So satisfying. The edge is nearly perfect, and we can already see how beautiful this case is becoming. Now for the final polish with 1 micron diamond particles. After a few careful passes, I honestly don't know what to say. Just look at it. The finish speaks for itself. But we are not done yet. My lapping device only allows me to grind 2 edges at a time, which means there are still 2 corner edges left to do. Let's finish those quickly and bring this case to its full glory. With every edge to polish done, we return to the satin finish, refining the directional lines to flow just right. To achieve this, I adjust the height of the tilt table, making sure the case sits precisely in the center of the lapping disc. Alignment is everything. After a few careful passes, the satin finish is flawless. On the same paper, I am making the finish on the lower end of lax by hand. With that done, the case is done. But we are still not finished. Next up, the bezel and the case back. These pieces deserve the same attention, the same precision. Let's start with the bezel. I mount it on my other lapping device. This one has a single angle adjustment. perfect for the bezel. I carefully set the angle, mount the coarse grit paper and begin removing weld marks, scratches and dents. You might notice a slight wobble. Don't worry, it's not the lapping device, it's the bezel itself. It's old, made from thin piece of metal and it's taken a few punches over the years. That's why it's slightly bent. This is common with vintage watches, and replacements just don't exist. Fortunately, in this case the distortions won't be visible once polished. But in other cases, it can be a serious problem, one that demands either expert repair or creative compromise. At this stage, I'm also lapping the flat edge of the bezel. It's a smart move, it saves time by working on two edges in one go. But it's not just about speed. This method ensures both edges are perfectly aligned, which is crucial for the final look. Once the coarse grit sanding is done, I move on to the finer grits and polishing. Just like before. And the result? Absolutely awesome. This is the part that makes the work so satisfying. Seeing the transformation, knowing the effort paid off, it's what keeps me coming back to these restorations. Next, I move on to the side edge of the bezel. As always, I start with coarse grit, gradually working through finer grits and finishing with a polish. With that done, the bezel is officially finished. Now we move on to the caseback. I begin with polishing the side edge. Same steps as with the bezel. Coarse grit, finer grits, then polish. Once that's complete, I turn to the satin finish on the other edges of caseback. I'm not going for perfection here. The surface is already in good shape. Just adding a bit of texture to refresh it. And with that, the caseback is done. Now it's time to clean all the case parts. I drop them into the ultrasonic cleaner, rinse them under water and dry them off with a towel. With everything clean and prepped, we are finally ready to move on to assembling the case parts. First up, the crown tube. I begin by applying a small amount of Loctite into the hole in the case. Just a dab, no need to flood the thing. Then I mount the crown onto the tube. Why? Because the threaded tube is super fragile. Any force applied directly to it can easily distort it. Mounting the crown first acts like a little helmet. It protects the tube during installation. And then, I hammer it into place. Gently, of course. Just enough to sit it properly. It's one of those moments where precision meets persuasion. With the crown tube installed, we can move on to the bezel and glass assembly. First up, the glass gasket. Before anything goes in, I check that the case is completely dust-free. No surprises allowed. I use Rodico to gently erase any particles. It's like a magic eraser for watchmakers. The gasket needs a bit of lubricant to seal properly, so I grease it up and press it into the case. Next, the glass. I inspect it for dust, scratches or any imperfections, because when it's in, it's in. Thankfully, on this watch installing the glass is super easy. No drama. Then comes the bezel. I screw it by hand, just finger tight for now. The final torque will come after the movement is back in place. And finally, I screw on the case back. That seals everything up and protects the interior from dust while I will do some spa for a movement. And that's it. The case is fully assembled and ready for next chapter. The movement service and final assembly is coming in next video, so if you don't want to miss it, hit that subscribe button. Trust me, it's going to be worth it. And before we wrap things up, I just want to say a massive thank you to all my subscribers and viewers. Honestly, I didn't expect this kind of support after just 2 videos. It really means a lot. You've given me the energy to keep making more. If there is something special you would like to see related to watch restoration, drop a comment. I read them all. And of course, anyone is welcome here. Suggestions for improving the videos? Bring them on. I am always looking to make this channel better. Also, I've put together a little survey on my channel with a few watches that could be restored next. If you want to help decide which one gets the spotlight, head over and cast your vote. Thanks again, and see you in the next one.